touch and agree. I stand in agreement. I receive these words. The reality is, this was my 49th birthday, which means that next year you're all invited to the party because I'll be half a century old. Oh my goodness. And by then we'll be having a big party because all of y'all would be publishing your books. By December next year, you all would have published your books. So when I have my big old birthday party, you all have to be invited so that we can celebrate together, okay? It is so good to see all your faces. For those of you who are online and watching the stream, go ahead and share. But if you want to be in on the fun and actually have engagement with me, with those that are on the Zoom session here, you want to sign up quickly and get the Zoom link so that you can come here in class and we can have more engagement. I absolutely love the project that Dalton just did with everybody, and that was to have you write a sentence, because today we're going to speak on the art of crafting. It is by far the longest process of writing your book. And right here, firstly, makes and breaks your book. But secondly, and most importantly, it makes or breaks who you are as a writer. Now, we get many kinds of writers, okay? We get those who write Facebook posts. We get those who write journals. We get those who write emails, articles, blogs. But when do you cease becoming a writer and you begin to become an author? You become an author the day you publish your writing. You publish your book so that it can be handed down to the next generation. And right here in this class is where we separate the sheep from the goats. This right here is where you decide, am I just going to be a writer for the rest of my life? Or am I going to make this transitional step towards becoming an author, the kind of author that is generational? I want to remind you of something. There are many writing courses you can do out there, and there are many, many books that you can read. But when I came to teach you how to write, I had a very clear goal for you. Not only do I want to bring out the treasure that is in you, but I want to make sure that it remains. You see, that was always my fire and why I published in the first place. I wanted something that I could give my children and my children's children. I was tired of seeing revivals come and go. I was tired of seeing God's man for the hour bust in with all the fire, that fire to fizzle out and nothing was left behind. I was tired of seeing one movement here and there that eventually was just waylaid, because I recognized that the movements that remained, the changes that remained in our society, in our culture, in our churches, are those that put pen to paper. When you put the theses on the door of the church, what was it that started the Reformation? Writing, putting pen to paper began a reformation, turned the world upside down. And it takes a certain kind of person to go past just writing and to publishing and putting that paper in a place where others can read it and be changed by it. And that's who we have here today. We are on class number 4. And I warned you, the numbers are going to dwindle. Do you know why? Because to become an author requires something that is a cuss word in most circles and streams. And I'm going to spell the cuss word out for you, because if I say it out loud, everybody is going to shrink and they're going to yell at me. Do you want to know what that cuss word is? W-O-R-K. Work. Becoming an author requires you to work. You have a title, you have an idea, you have a talent, you have passion, you have so much potential. But today, are you prepared to take that potential and work at it so that you can publish and leave something that remains? You know, our ministry, we work with the next gen prophets. And what I recognize more and more in working with some of the older generation, incredible men and women of God, is that a lot of them didn't document and put down the things that they knew. You know, if the likes of Robert Liardon hadn't done all the studies on Catherine Kuhlman and John G. Lake and Smith Wigglesworth, if he hadn't gone and studied their lives and asked the questions and then penned that down into all the books that he's written, would we even know our own revivals? Would we even know the great works of God? If somebody hadn't taken the time to write it down. Because even though seasons come and go and cultures can shift and change, one thing is never going to change. Since your first caveman put a drawing on the side of a cave wall to tell his story, that we're still reading of the hieroglyphics today, these things are timeless. When we take what is in our heart and we put it down on paper and publish for all the world to see, we become immortal. And that is the desire I have for you, your story, your passion, your journey, your struggle, your victory, the power God has given you to become immortal. Regardless of what it is that you publish. When you publish it for the world to see, you leave something behind for the next generation. That is the stream that I flow in. That is my passion and desire. And so every lesson that I've taught you has had that ambition in mind, that you don't just write for today. You could write for today and you could inspire the person for today, or you could become a generational author and continue pressing in and inspiring for generation after generation. And that is why we need to craft. I want to begin today with a quote from an incredible author. He is an author on writing, and his book is On Writing Well by William Zinsser. For those of you who are an apprentice, you'll get the links to his books on Amazon that you can get them. I highly, highly recommend. Brilliant step 1, 2, 3 in how to craft your book. And he says this: writing is an intimate transaction between two people, conducted on paper, and it will go well to the extent that it retains its humanity. Never forget that when you write and your reader reads, that you have an intimate transaction between two people whereby you pour out what is in you and they receive what it is that you've given them. What we need to do as authors is to ensure that the way that we give it out to them is easy enough for them to receive, for them to understand, and for them to base their lives on if you're doing such a teaching. And so that means the work is on us, not on the reader. The work is on you, on the writer, to connect with your reader. And that is what crafting is all about. Now, I have some very, very clear points, and I hope you're ready to write and have some fun with this. Okay, so there's something, if this is your first time seeing any of my teachings, there's something you need to know about me. I am very sarcastic, okay? We're South Africans. In South Africa, sarcasm is like a second language. So you're just going to have to flow with it. I'm going to express myself with a lot of sarcasm in this session because I've got a lot of ground to cover, and some of the stuff is so obvious. It's so obvious that you don't know it until I say it. So it's going to be expressed with a lot of sarcasm, okay? So you're just going to have to wing it with me here. But I have some very, very clear points on what to do with your text, how to craft it to prepare it for publication. So what is crafting? Let me give you a picture. Any of you guys watch those cooking shows? You have them watch those cooking shows for hours. You know, even my son watches the Gordon Ramsay with the kids and how they plate and how they do all the food and whatnot. My entire family watches all these crazy cooking shows. And the most impactful aspect of that show is how they plate the food. It's not about how the food tastes. It's not about the ingredients that they use. In fact, in some of the shows, they use the most ridiculous ingredients. That's not what it's about. What it's about is what does that plate look like when it's presented to the judges before they even taste it, before they even take a little taste. The first thing that is judged is how well it's plated. You go to, okay, what is the difference between a McDonald's and a 5-star restaurant? Other than the napkins. You get your little bundled up hamburger squished in with mayonnaise all over the place, dumped at you. When you go to the 5-star restaurant, your meal is a third of the size, and they've plated it so beautifully. You've got a little garnish, and you've got some sauce in the shape of a flower or a fern. That's how you know you're at a 5-star restaurant. Now tell me something. You and I both know you're going to pay maybe $5 for the McDonald's burger, but you're going to pay anywhere from $50 or up for that little pretty plate at the 5-star restaurant, right? Well, what kind of writing do you want to throw out there? Because depending on the quality of your writing will depend on how much of your book is read and how often it is passed around. Do not underestimate the power of crafting. It doesn't matter what your topic is. When you take the time to craft, you make a connection with your reader. If I had you over for dinner and I just threw a hamburger on a paper plate to you, you would say thank you, and you would have said hamburger on a paper plate, okay? But if you came to my house for dinner and I prepared a beautiful meal with all the plating, and by the way, we're huge on plating here at our ministry center. We have all the tools. You can be sure if ever I did invite you to my house, you're getting all the fancy garnishes and the plating. I absolutely love that stuff. And I put that plate in front of you that took so much care and so much heart and time. I put all my creativity into it. How would you as a guest feel? Would you not feel respected? Would you not feel important? That's why crafting in our writing is so essential. When we take time to craft and just not throw out the first inspiration that's super anointed, that's super powerful, a great message, but when we take the time to take our great message and to craft it, we present to our reader the best of what we have to offer. Now, if you sold a book before and you didn't get the kind of feedback that you hoped you would, could it be you didn't take enough time to craft it? It's time to plate the food. Remember, writing is an intimate transaction between two people conducted on paper. What you present to your reader is more important than you realize. So, here are some of the things that you can do after you've got your nice big lump of writing. You've just poured out your guts, and I have been on you about getting your emotion out on the page. Did you bleed on the page? Did you put it all out? Did you cry on the page? Did you get angry on the page? Did you put you out? Did you empty yourself on the page? Good. I promise you, by the time you emptied yourself, you give it a few days, you come back, it looks like a big fat mess. Good. It's okay. Perfectly normal. That's the way it's meant to be. You can't craft until you've expressed. You have to empty yourself first. You can only craft after you've emptied yourself, okay? So you empty yourself, you say what you want to say, you say the good things, you say the bad things, you say the inappropriate things, but you get it out. Once you've got it out, then you begin crafting. Point number 1, I want you to look at your block of text. Say it plain. Simplify. Do you know that sometimes we get so caught up in trying to be writers, we try and say it in such a complicated, cool, and dramatic way. We think we've got to get like a writer tone, you know? Like, okay, so do you ever see those preachers? I mean, they're just super normal people until they get behind a podium. And then suddenly they get a whole different tone. They're suddenly like, and the Lord says, and you're like, you were just sitting having a convo with the guy 2 minutes ago and he was perfectly normal. And then 2 seconds later, he's on this whole other persona, right? And it's kind of funny. I mean, we make jokes about it, but aren't you doing that with your writing sometimes? You think that when you sit down to write, you have to somehow embody a persona of somebody who's intelligent, somebody who writes well, instead of just embodying who you are. You're meant to be putting you on the page. And you overcomplicate things. We are very, very simple people. We are. When we're giving instructions, when we're texting a friend, when we're writing an email, we actually are very simple, and a lot of us do get straight to the point. But when we begin to use the word writer, we think somehow we've got to reach through the pages of our books and strangle our poor reader to understand what we're saying and choke them with so many words. It's got to stop. Simplify. Don't try to be clever, and don't dance around the point. Have you ever had this? And being that we're counselors and we're in ministry, we get this all the time. Somebody will come to us and say, I'd like marital counsel. And you'd be like, okay, could you be a little bit more specific? What do you mean you need marital counsel? No, my husband and I have been fighting. Okay, perhaps you could elaborate. See the comments here, right, counselor? Could you perhaps elaborate on the kind of fights that you're having? He doesn't like the way I dress. Okay. I mean, you want to strangle them and say, like, what is the point? Give me an example. What were you fighting about? Where were you fighting? Why were you fighting? What did you say? What did he say? Can we get down to the bottom line? Half my job as a counselor is asking questions. Like, can you be more specific? Can we go deeper? Now, if you're having to reach your reader, the last thing you want to do is to force him to have to ask you 20 questions before you get to your point, right? No. Be specific. Say it straight out. Don't say my husband and I had a conflict and then leave it at that. What does that even mean? What does that even mean? We had a conflict. He didn't take the trash out? I don't know. He rushed me out the door? That's a conflict. What was the conflict? What's the drama, people? Be specific. Don't try and be so romantic and eloquent in your writing that you dance around the point and never make it, because you're going to bore your reader. Now, guys, there's my deepest seated fear in all the world is that I would be boring. So I hope I impart that fear to you. Do not be boring. Engage your reader. Simplify. Be very specific about the point you want to make. Just say it. Guys, have you ever read, especially when it comes to touchy subjects, but I have one of my apprentices that are going to be teaching on singles and handling sexuality and all this whatnot. And have you ever read these books where they're trying to talk about sex or something super like awkward? And so they start using flowery, awkward, weird language instead of just saying it straight out. And you're like, what are you talking about? I have to literally go deep and read between the lines to understand what you're saying. Just come out and say it. Don't have sex before marriage. Thank you. What do I do with the lustful temptations? Thank you. I can work with that. If you're talking on sensitive subjects, you can't just be painting pictures all the time. There comes a time when you just got to say it straight. Get to the point. Stop dancing around your topic and get to the point. Say it plain. All right. Do not be afraid of the deletion key. I'm speaking to all the prophets in the house. You know, the problem is because you tapped into your prophetic flow, you think that every word that proceeds out of your mouth is the word of God. Allow me to smash that sacred cow. It's not. It's not the word of God. It's your word. Inspired by the Spirit of God. It's your word, and your words are deletable. They are not the 10 commandments chiseled in the stone in Moses' hand. You can delete, child of God. You have the power to press the delete key. And where that inspiration came from, get this specific part, you have more. In fact, you better have more. You can say it so much better. Yes, you can. You know, when we get these ideas of inspiration, we think this is the idea of all ideas. I've got to write this down before I forget it. And yes, there's some merit to that, but where do you think that idea came from? Well, it came from you. It came from your spirit. It came from the Lord. So you don't think you can get it again and say it better? You can say it better. And if you didn't say it well, delete. And if you said the same thing, Lord help me, the same thing in 3 different sentences, 3 different ways, choose one. You see, I want to go through all my old books that I started writing 25 years ago. It's so tempting to just go through every last one of them and just start deleting entire paragraphs. I'm like, I have literally said this same thing 3 times in the same chapter. I am bored. Can I delete this? But you know, at the time I was writing it, because I was so inspired and it was so anointed, I kind of felt like I was cheating on the anointing by deleting it. It's okay. Let it go. You are anointed whether or not you say many words or whether you say one word. It's not dependent on the abundance of your words, but rather on your message. And you need to get your message across. And if you overuse words, you're not going to get your message across. So don't be afraid to use the delete key. You can just go and delete stuff. You can just delete stuff. When I use, this is especially valid for those of you who are transcribing. We already did a teaching on transcribing. When you transcribe from an audio into a book, I've written books and I've also done transcriptions and a mix of two to publish some of my books. And you are so tempted to put everything in that you said. But the reality is, when we're talking to an audience, we're picking up a lot of what they're going through in the moment. And so we're meeting that felt need in the moment, right? But that may not carry very well to a book. So don't be afraid to delete entire chunks of the transcript if you feel it's going in a different direction. Or if you really feel it was good content, just copy it and put it in another document and save it for later. Don't feel forced and compelled just for the sake of getting more words or getting more pages in your book to leave clutter. Don't do it. Don't be afraid of the delete key. If that paragraph is not in line with your topic or your theme or where you need to take your reader, delete it or move it to another document. Be free to use delete. Amen. Next, make every word count. For those of you who had the fun project of writing a sentence that evoked emotion, go through each one of the words in your sentence and delete them one at a time and ask yourself, if I delete this word, does the sentence still make sense? If I delete this word, does the sentence still make sense? If the sentence still makes sense after you delete the word, you got clutter. Decluttering is probably 60% of crafting. Because when we speak, and a lot of us like to write like we speak, we put a lot of ums and ahs in. We put a lot of adjectives and adverbs and sound effects and impressions into our speech. And so we've got this nasty habit of putting them into our writing as well. But they're useless words. They're powerless words. They're words that just take up the time and the brain of your reader and bore them and drag them down. And if you have too much clutter in your writing, you're going to find your reader skim. Think about this yourself. How often have you been reading a book and you start feeling a blah, blah coming on? Blah, 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 blah. Yes, I know what you mean. Yeah, blah, blah. And you start skipping pages. Why are you skipping pages? Well, because of the blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. But you can literally hear them droning in your head. You're like, I'm so done with the blah, blah. And then you're like skimming through all of these pages to get to the point that either hits your heart or gives you the truth. Especially if it's a study book or a textbook, you're like, blah, 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 blah. I don't want to read it. I don't want to read somebody's blah, blah. I don't want to read somebody's first idea, first thought, their surface impression, and they never take me deeper. I don't want to do it. Now, if I don't want to do it, I've got to give my reader the same respect and recognize that he doesn't want to sit there reading my blah, blah and my emotional nothingness. Yes, put your emotion down on the page, but then go back and keep the emotion in and take the blah, blah out. Because when we're feeling emotional, we tend to use a lot of words, but only one will do. In fact, the one word could be so punchy and so powerful. But we say so many words. We want to say we're sad. So we'll say, I am sad 5 different ways. I am discouraged. I was let down. I feel down. I feel depressed. I feel sad. And it's like, well, choose one. People prophesy like that. I've got to just throw this out there. Sometimes when people prophesy or when they teach, they give like 5 different words for the same thing. You know how I train my team? They give me writing like that. I'm like, pick one. Is the Lord giving them a new door, a new season, a new field, or a new tool? Because you can't say all of that in one prophetic word or in one sentence. Pick one. Which one did the Lord mean? Because the Lord isn't psycho. He knows what he wants. Pick one. Declutter. It's not necessary to give 5 different examples. Can we just, you know what? Your 300-page book just became a 100-page book, a 50-page book, just by decluttering. Delete the words that are unnecessary. Look for all your ing words. Complaining, jumping, thinking, fearing. Find them. You'll find your clutter. Your clutter is found in your INGs and in your LY words. We're getting to these. But seriously, guys, when we get impressions and thoughts and ideas, what happens is our brain starts to trigger. Remember, I was even speaking to you in the first class about how our brain operates, how we need to go deeper in our writing, because the first impressions that come out are not the deeper thought that we've been processed for throughout our lives, okay? And so we need to go a little bit deeper. And to do that, we need to get rid of all that clutter in our emotions, our minds. There's so much clutter there that we never get to the deeper thought by really pressing ourselves, challenging ourselves, crafting ourselves to ask the question, wait, what do I really mean? What do I mean here? When I say all these words, what is the one point I'm trying to make? What is the one action I require from my reader? What is the one thing I need them to feel? If I need them to feel this particular emotion, why am I bulking it up with so many side emotions? I've got to get rid of all of that clutter. Declutter. Okay. There's a lot of points I have this all beautifully laid out for you in the dossier. For those of you who have ordered it, for those of you who had it, I have all my notes here, so you can take it. You don't even need to keep notes. You can just take my notes and add to them. Point number 4. This is imperative when you are crafting. Dump the cliche. And while I'm reading out some of these cliches, I'd love you guys who are joining us live in this session. I want you to throw out some cliches that you've heard of, and you'll see what I mean when I start rattling these out. I've got a whole long list. I'm not going to list all of them, but I want to see if you realize how often we stay surface in our expression. Now, I want to say a little something here. When we stay surface in our expression, all we're expressing is what everybody else says. All we're expressing is our archetype. All we're expressing is our social influence. All we're expressing is what we see from others. When we speak through cliche and clutter, we're really verbalizing what we hear all day. But when you dump the clutter and you dump the cliche, you're forced to go deeper into who you are, what you really feel, what your message truly is. And that's where I'm taking you today. When I tell you to work hard, it's not just a case of making your writing incredible. It's a case of diving deep into you, your soul, your spirit, your call, your passion, your power, your uniqueness. We need to go there. If you're to be a generational writer, we need to go beyond the cliche and the flowery words and saying it all nice and saying it as you would say it. And you can't express yourself through the voice of another. Can I draw out your voice today? Here are some cliches, and please do feel free. Once upon a time, happily ever after. There you go. We got some fantastic cliches. How about this? It was a dark and stormy night. Don't do it. Better than never. Down in the dumps. end of the world, weeding things out, dead as a doornail. I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Come on, how can we say these things better? How can we say it better than I woke up on the wrong side of the bed? How about the first thing I stepped on was my son's Lego? That's unique, and that pretty much explains I woke up on the wrong side of the bed, but you can see that, right? You feel my pain, right? It feels so much more painful than I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. To say, I stepped onto my son's Lego. Come on, you feel the pain. You can express these thoughts your way. Every single one of these cliches express a thought, right? Read between the lines. They express a thought of somebody saying something in such a way that they don't really say it right out. We know what read between the lines is, but how could you say it? How would you express that thought? You see, the way I would say it is I read his halo data. You know, just like an angel has a halo. When somebody has a halo, I can see it. It's the same as reading between the lines. But I say it my way. And it's cool when I say it my way. And even if you don't think it's cool that I say it my way, you'll think it's cool eventually if you keep reading my book, because it's me on a page. What is you on a page? If all you ever do, if you write a book full of cliches, what you're telling me is you don't know who you are. You're telling me that you only know how to express your voice through the sound of others. And that's not going to fly. That's not going to fly for this, guys. Adding insult to injury, hot off the press, as far as the eye can see. Sweating Crisco, I swear I have never heard that cliche in all my life. But okay, they didn't mix like oil and water. I mean, so done. Give me some more cliches, 1 in a million. Here's another one. Barking up the wrong tree, sharp as a tack, at wit's end. Put all your eggs in one basket. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I am appalled to announce that there are some of these in my books, and what they are non-original thought. They're non-original thought. Come on, writers. Let's go higher. Let's go deeper. What else have we got there? He hit the nail on the head. Very good. Dead tired. So many cliches. I don't want to kill 2 birds ever. But what does the expression mean? If I say, how can we say it better? Come on, let's have a little fun with this. To kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We basically mean putting in one kind of effort and we accomplish 2 goals at the same time. How could we say it better? I want to be efficient. Very good. Don't cry over spilled milk. Come on, guys. What have we got you? Come on. How else can we say he killed 2 birds with 1 stone? You could say it simply like, yeah, he did 2 things at the same time. How can we say it better? How would you say it? How would you say it? What's your voice? You see, you're so used to leaning on cliches that you haven't even come up with your own yet. Well, how did you think he multitasks? Very good. How do you think these cliches all came to life? Do you know that Shakespeare invented a large majority of the words that he used? He revolutionized our English language. He invented words. He made them up. That is why he is still studied today. Because he dug deep within himself and said, how would I say it? Using the law of grammar, how would I say it? And he came up with words that had never been used, and they became so popular that we still use them today. So let me ask you, how would you say it? I conquered 2 tasks with limited action. My efforts produced a magnified impact. Excellent. She said it with 1 word. Very good. I really say, I love a good 2 for 1. But that's cliche too. The point is, how would you say it? Can you challenge yourself deeper? I hope I'm really giving you the challenge of, hang on a minute, I didn't realize how often I speak with the voice of others instead of with my own. All right, I've only just begun. I've also got happily ever after and once upon a time. Don't do it, even for a children's book. Let's save ourselves. Listen, all of these cliches became famous because someone dug deep and said, how would I say it? And we thought to ourselves, that's smart. I like how they said it. I'm going to say it too. What kind of writer do you want to be? I want to be one that is generational. That means you need to decide how you're going to say it and avoid cliches at all times. Avoid cliches. Avoid them. Not only are you speaking with somebody else's voice, but cliches can also change in their meaning and in their durability of time. Cliches can be time stamped. So, and then suddenly not make sense. So try as best as you can to get rid of cliches. Don't use them in your writing if you want to be generational. Okay. Now, I want to give you just some really basic tips on making your text a little easier to read. Now, after this, in session 2, I've got my editor coming on here, and she's going to give you some powerful secrets on how to edit your book. We're going to look at how to format your headings, how to work with passive voice, some of that technical stuff you learned at school but didn't quite understand. So we're going to express it in a really fun way, and then we're going to go into breakout rooms. This is for our apprentices. I hope you guys are ready to have some fun today, because we are really going to pull some of your writing apart and put it all back together again. But here are some tips that for those of you who are following me, conjunctions are your friend, okay? Conjunctions are your friend. What's a conjunction? Instead of I am, I'm. Instead of she is, she's. Instead of it is, it's. You want to write in shorter sentences, and that's something I know my editor is going to get in here. And contractions, sorry, not conjunctions, contractions. These, I actually wrote it down here incorrectly. Contractions. Like, you see how good she is? She's like, I got you. It's a contraction, not a conjunction. I'm sorry. When you use a contraction, you move your reader along the sentence quicker. Now, we are living in a society of let's get it and go. That is the society in which we live. Your writing has to match. You need to get to your point, and you need to get to it quickly. I was reading a blog on prayer a few days ago, and I was really trying to get something out of this blog, but I'm not going to lie. They took so long to get to the point that I thought, I don't care how much I like this person. I am pressing the back button. I can't bear it. If you're not grabbing me in the first sentence, if you're not getting to your point, I don't mind if you strike me with the point and then say, track with me. I'm just going to explain myself a bit, and then we're getting back to the point. It's like, okay, I'll give you the time. I'll give you the time. But have you ever watched one of those movies that just don't get to the point in the first 15 minutes of the movie? They do such a build-up that you just press stop or change the channel. Short, snappy sentences. I look at some of my first books. I'm embarrassed sometimes. Now I pick up The Way of Dreams and Visions. I'm like, Lord, it's one of my best sellers. I know that people they love the content and they love the point of it. But one thing it doesn't do is give short sentences. I had one sentence in there that was a paragraph long. Why did I do that to God's people? I feel like I need to repent for what I did to y'all having to read that. I bet you it was a paragraph that you skimmed. Because nobody likes it. It's complicated. It's overwhelming to the mind. You can't track with the author. Remember, this needs to be an exchange. Don't you hate those people that talk and never give you an opportunity to say anything? Well, that's what it's like when you have a long sentences. Short, snappy sentences. The shorter, the better. They're powerful. And that's why we use contractions, because contractions shorten our sentences. If you write a sentence, a regular sentence, I am going to the store and then we will go there. If you just bring those contractions, you really make the sentence snappy. I'll, I'm, will, he'll, she'll, will. Come on. What are some conjunctions that you don't use but you should? You see, I was taught old school contractions. Sorry, I'm getting these two words mixed up. Bear with me. You get where I'm going. I was taught in school that it was almost rude to use a contraction, that it was sloppy writing. That's what I was taught in grammar school. But times have changed. And not only that, let's think about the reader instead of ourselves and our own pride. We want to move our reader along as quickly as possible. You want to do something fun? Why don't you pull up a Facebook post, a tweet, something on Instagram, anything that anybody's written. And what for these 4 points, the first 4 points I really gave you were on crafting. This one's on writing and easy read, okay? So I've got contractions, number 1. Go through it and ask yourself, could they have used some contractions? Did they do the I am, she is, he will, I? It is the worst, you know? Take your Word document, do a find and replace. It is to its. Just find and replace it. Stop it ising, people. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. You can it's them. It's okay. Just it's God's people. Get in there. ITS. You can do it. All right. So now that we've got contractions out the way, number 2, show, don't tell. Show, don't tell. Power nouns instead of adjectives. All right. This is the part where I'm going to tell you to stop insulting your reader. Stop insulting me. There's some books where they're telling me so much what to think, telling me so much what to see, that they forget I've got a brain of my own. But we, in our desire to get our message across, we do the same thing without realizing it. Do you know that? Do you know what it sounds like? It's like this. I heard with my ears. Like, what else were you going to hear with? Like, I haven't heard with my nose in a very long time. I smelled with my nose. Well, I hope so. Otherwise, you have a condition, friend. But you know how stupid we get in our writing something? I felt with my hands. I got goosebumps on my skin. Where else could a human being get a goosebump? Where are they going to get that goosebump? Think about it. I'm getting some comments here that I'm not going to repeat. The point is, we are ridiculous sometimes with our adjectives, and all we do is clutter. Red blood. Well, listen, unless you are writing a sci-fi, I don't want to break it to you too harshly, but most living things on this earth have red blood. So if I say blood, what are you going to see? Is it going to be green blood? I'm not Vulcan. I'm human. And if I'm speaking on earth, blood is red. Blood is red. Like I said, unless you like a Star Trek fan or something and you're making a fantasy where you got blue blood going on. You know, I got red blood. So it is redundant to say he's red blood flowed. Number 1, what else was it going to do? And number 2, what other color was it going to be? Clutter. It's clutter. How about this one? What color is the sky on a nice day? What color is the sky? So why do I have to insult you to say the sky was a beautiful blue on this nice clear day? Well, if it was a nice clear day, what color did you expect the sky to be? It wasn't going to be black on a nice clear day. If it's in the middle of the day, the sky was not black. But do you see how we insult our reader? All the time we add adjectives that are redundant. It makes no sense whatsoever. Things like seeing eyes. I touched with my hands. I walked with my feet. Listen, unless I was walking on my knees or my hands, which needed to be mentioned, if I say I walked to some place, for most of us who have a sane mind, we know we walked upon our feet to get to that place. So if I walked on anything else than my feet, then it bears a mention, because that changes the story completely. But I want you to go through some of what you've written, some of what you read, and how much of it is redundant, how much of it is obvious, how much of you is taking away from your audience. I'm going to throw out just a few words. Let me see. Sunset. Do I really need to tell you the hues and shades and colors? Do I need to tell you the time of day? Because if it's sunset, I promise you, it's not 6 a.m. in the morning. So do I need to tell you? Do I need to tell you what color the sunset is? Do I need to tell you what sunrise is? When I say sunrise, what are you experiencing? Every human being that's experienced a sunrise is going to experience it their way. And this is the power. This is the dance between author and reader, is that you give them a gift and they get to unwrap it. You present the crafting to them and they get to enjoy the meal. It is for them to paint the sky of their sunset. It is for them to get lost in your book. It is for them to be so immersed in the images that they are building in their mind without you imposing your red blood on them. You know, if they want to see green blood, let them do it. That is the relationship between author and reader. We're on a journey together, and we need to allow them to experience your message. When you say something, and that's why this is show, don't tell. Don't overtell it. Don't tell people what to feel. Don't tell people what to think. Don't tell people what to see. Present a good noun. Leapt. He leapt. What are you seeing? I don't need to say anymore. I don't need to say, he jumped very high into the air. If someone leaps, they more often than not are going to jump very high, very excitedly perhaps, into the air. But I can just say it with one word. He leapt. He leapt. You can say it too. Get rid of the clutter. All right, now I've got a very cool resource for you guys for point number 3, which is lose the very. Go through every text and take the word very out, because there's a better way to say it. In fact, there's a great website that I want you guys to all, just tag as your favorite, and it's called losethevery.com. Incredible resource. It will save you. It'll give you fresh ideas. It'll help you write better than you've ever written before. Lose the very. You got to say it better than very sad. Very sad. He was very sad. That is lazy writing. He was very happy that he got his candy. Lazy writing. Lazy, lazy. He was very tall. Lazy. He was very short. What do you mean? He was a dwarf. Better. He was dwarf-sized. It's so much cooler than he was very short. Very is a very lazy way of writing. Lose the very. If I see a very, I'm going to call you lazy. Very equals lazy. Yes, losethevery.com. No more berries. Go through all your writing and take away the berries. Come on, let's give me another word for very sad. Come on, guys, give me some more words for very sad. Give me one powerful word for very sad. I've got dejected, morbid, morose, remorse, sorrowful, despondent, melancholy, depressed, anguished. Now, those are power words. Oh, I like this word, anguished, disturbed, anguished. Tell me, what do you see when I say anguished? It's better than very sad. Very sad is in a children's book who's learning to read. See, an 8-year-old would even be bored with very. Maybe my 5-year-old grandson, well, when he gets to 5, he can read books with the word very. But unless you're writing children's books, dump the very. okay? I like disturbed. I like melancholy. I like broken. That is so much more powerful than very sad. Here's another one. Very happy. He was very happy as he went along his way. Cliche, clutter, and a very. That entire sentence needs to be either deleted or rewritten. Elated, cheerful, joyful, euphoric. Oh, I like euphoric. Elated. Oh, deflated, Bronwyn, for very sad is very good. So we got deflated, elated for happy, ecstatic. These are fantastic words. I want you to notice something about each of these words that we're picking out here. Do you notice how short and snappy they are? They're not these super long, complicated words. And yet there is no doubt in my mind that they communicate exactly the emotion on the page. Radiant, charged, content, ecstatic. When I throw these words at you, there's no doubt in your mind the emotion on the page. You provoke my emotion with these words. But when you say very sad or very happy, it's like you haven't made up your mind what the issue really is. So good. Jovial. That's another fantastic word. Okay, let's see. All right. I've got another challenging one for you. How about very long? It could be very long time, a very long rope. Give me some words that could sound a bit better than very long. I've got eternal, everlasting, very good word. Come on, but elongated, unending, very good. This one's a challenging one because it can relate to time or distance. Vast, vast is good. I like that. Lengthy, extensive. I like that. Complex. Complex is good. It will be dependent on the connotation of your sentence. Protracted. You see? And it's fun, isn't it? I hope one thing that you take from this teaching is how much fun crafting can be. Alrighty, I've got to go and slap you around with one more point before I can hand over to Denise here. Ditch the ly. The adverbs have got to go, y'all. The lys have got to go. The actuallys, the rarelys, all the lys. Skim through all the text. So what we're going to do is, number one, we're going to look for those contractions, right? Then number two, we're going to look for the show, don't tell. Let's take away the redundant words that don't need to be said. Three, check out for any varies, lose the very. And then number four, ditch the ly. It's lazy writing. She wore the dress beautifully. Lazy writing. How else can we say he jumped quickly? How else can we say he jumped quickly? Let's get rid of the ly. Give me a word that paints me a picture. Instead of saying he jumped quickly, I could say he leapt, he bounded, he propelled. I can take the ly, I can take the noun, I can take the verb and the adverb and make them into a power verb, leapt into the air. Not he jumped very quickly, he exploded. I don't know if he exploded. Sprang's a good word. All right, how about cried loudly? How else can we say cried loudly? Go and challenge yourself on every ly. Sobbed. Very good. Lamented, whimpered, whelped, wailed. I also had wailed. Excellent. Howled. Cried profusely. We have us an ly. Ho, ho, ho. How else can we say cried profusely? Screeched. Wow. That guy was having a bad day. Bawl, sob, screamed. There's many ways to say. And do you notice how each one of these words create tone? A different tone. Every single one of these authors here are going to have a different tone. All right, here's another one. Said excitedly. I said something excited, and she excitedly said, such lazy writing. Such lazy writing. How about gushed? She gushed. She exclaimed. She squealed. She screamed. I like it. These are good. She proclaimed. It's a challenge, isn't it? Chirped. You guys are doing so well. All right. Here's a nice challenging one. He specifically added. Do you know how we put words in with it? I mean, what does that even mean? He specifically added. But do you know how often we put things like that in our writing? He specifically said. Why can't we say that with what clarified? Thank you. He chose. He clarified. I said interjected. He directed. Very good. You guys are getting it. He explained. It just, when you choose words like this, instead of just throwing out lazy writing, you find your voice, guys. He said with intention. With intention. You find your own voice when you don't just throw up the first thing you've heard, the first thing that's come to your brain. You go a little bit deeper. All right, here's a bit of a fun one. He accidentally fell. He accidentally fell. Exactly. He tripped, he stumbled, he tumbled. Very good. You guys are having some fun with this. But it's so much more fun to say he tumbled, he slipped, he fumbled, he lost his footing than he accidentally fell. We've really done really sad. It's right up there with the very depressed, dejected, discouraged. Get rid of the ly. Look for these particular words. Really, actually. And while you're at it, I have a couple of personal words that I'd like to ban. I really would, especially from most live streams. Can we please stop saying the word excited? From the bottom of my soul. Everybody's so excited about everything. My excitement has indeed waned. I'm so excited. This is going to be so exciting because we're excited to have this exciting thing that's exciting God's people. Stop it. Stop it. You're overusing excited, astonished, thrilled. Yes. Can we get original right up there with awesome? Excited and awesome. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited to be here today. You and the 5,000 people who just said the exact same thing. Can you find your own voice? Oh, I just feel better about saying that. It wasn't really in my notes, but I just feel like I needed to express some of my heart to you. I had a bad, some of my team, I'm like, yo, if you say excited and awesome, what was the other one? It was excited and amazing. Oh my goodness. And so we're going to say, I am so excited for this amazing team we're going to have. It's going to be awesome. What does that even mean to me? What does that mean? You've given me no facts. You've given me no focus. There are no pictures. You're not showing me nada. How does one see excited? How does one see awesome? And how does one see amazing? Let us take a moment to reflect. Let's get rid of these words. I'm excited for this event. Oh, it's amazing. She's going to get me in the spirit. I'm going to be doing some spiritual warfare here. Now they're just provoking me at this point. These are banned words. Due to their overuse, these words have officially been banned from the English vocabulary. And everybody can come up with something better to say. That I'm so excited to be here at this awesome event that's going to be amazing. Some of my team used to say the word amazing 3 times in one sentence. They were amazed that they were amazing me with their amazement. It had to stop. It has to stop somewhere. Somebody has got to say, let's make the switch. And today, that is you. You know, I'm messing with y'all, but not too much, because let's get original. You know, when I first started learning to craft my writing, I found that it changed my speech. It made me a better communicator. It's like when I'm even speaking to you guys, I'm crafting my words in my head. And then when I stop crafting my words in my head, I end up saying some things I probably shouldn't on camera. And those are the ones we need to like cut from the video. Because then the wild and crazy me comes out. Sometimes we leave them, but sometimes we're like, may have gone a little overboard on that one. I should have crafted that before I said it. But when you take time to craft what you're writing, you respect your reader. You create a connection with them and you establish a relationship with them. Never forget that your readers getting to know the most personal parts of your life. When I'm writing a book, I see my reader in front of me. I know what they feel. I know what they're thinking. I know what they're going through. And I want to make sure that when I express myself to them, it's in the best possible way that they can receive my message, and that message can then revolutionize their lives. Grammar, crafting, writing well, this is the art. This is the creativity. Everybody thinks that the real creativity is the idea. No. Anybody can take a piece of stone and start slamming at it, but it takes an artist to be able to chip away the parts in that piece of marble that's not statue. That's crafting. That's what takes time. When you can go into the details and play with the words, come up with better words. I have another app for you guys. And like I said, for those of you who are getting the dossier, please do. We have it now available. For those of you who aren't doing the full course, I really encourage you to get it, because I've got all these points for all of the lessons and actually all our sessions. I've even got session 3 with the practical projects that you can do as well. I have it all in the dossier. I have another resource for you, and it's called Roget's Thesaurus. We have the link for it to go and purchase the printed book in the dossier. But for those of you who have an Apple device, I don't believe it's on Windows, it's only on Apple's. Look it up, Roget's Thesaurus. This is my lifeline. I use it for headings. I use it for naming of groups and teams and events, because sometimes I want to come up with something catchier than team or group. I want to come up with a word that sounds better than that. How do I come up with something better than we're going to put a team together? Because, you know, everybody put in a team together. So then I'll pull up Roget's Thesaurus, I'll throw up team, and what it does is it's going to give me a bunch of synonyms that I could pick from that would help express not just what I'm wanting to say, but in such a way that it connects with my next gen audience. So I highly recommend that app for you guys. If you have an Apple computer, it's called Roget's Thesaurus. It's brilliant. I use it nearly every single day in my writing. When I feel I'm getting boring, I pull out Roget's. I'm like, my man, you got to save me. You got to save me from the rolling green meadows. When I say meadows, they almost always are the rolling, or if they're in Africa, they're plains and they're flat and they're yellow. They are what they are. And I just can't bear to say it the boring same way that everybody else has. And so I pull out Roget's and I ask myself, how would you say meadow? Would you call it something else? How would you say field? Would you call it something else? How would you say sad or happy? Any of these emotions. Let me find some other way of expressing myself that digs deeper into who I really am to connect with who my reader really is. Then you're writing. I've had so much fun with you guys. I'd like to open this up for any questions. I'm going to take 1 or 2 questions quickly in the chat before we go to our second session with Denise. She's going to be helping our apprentices. Guys, I hope you're ready to take notes. She's got some incredible ground to cover. Denise and I have spent, how many years has it been? 15 years now, Denise, at least, working together on how to edit my books. I would not allow anybody else to help me on my books as much as Denise does, because we had to go through a lot of back and forth on how I wanted my books edited, because that I'm a Christian author. I speak specifically on the fivefold ministry. What was I going to uppercase? What was I going to lowercase? How are we going to express ourselves? What part of God's nature gets capitalized, what doesn't? And it took us a while to come up with our own schematic, and we're going to share that with you guys, and give you some really power tips on taking what you have expressed and arranging it in such a way that you could stand on your own next to other published authors who have written incredible works, okay? So what questions do we have here? The 131, should it be for the whole book? No, Mark, that was just a writing practice for your introduction. When writing fiction, it's still important to speak plainly regarding the main message, but sometimes we need to use subtlety to develop characters. Yes, that is true, Ashley. Have you ever written narrative fiction? Yes, I have. If so, what was the best way to decide when to use subtlety and subtext and when to speak plainly? It depended on the emotion I wanted to evoke. When I wanted to evoke a very specific emotion, I spoke plainly to make sure that I pulled my reader into that emotion with me, that I said it very, very plain. What is the best introduction for a self-help book? Strong promise, Bridget. You want to start with the strong promise. If it's a self-help, you want to go for felt need from the beginning. Go for felt need. Remember what we spoke about in the last class, what they think their need is and what their need really is? Dive straight into felt need with the strong promise. That is the best introduction. Strong promise, story that's punchy, that paints the emotion and the pictures well, you've got them. You've got them caught. What else have I got you? Any other questions? Is it smart to write fiction if I'm in the middle of what I'm going through versus it being over? Oh no, you must write while you're in the middle. Absolutely write it while you're in the middle. You must bleed on the page. I know that sounds so, I'm going to have some of my Christian friends be like, you're a prophet that minister inner healing? Yeah. You'd be amazed how much pouring your blood out on the page heals your heart. Empty yourself. Write when you're in the middle of it. And please, that's the best time to write. When you're happy, when you're sad, when you're in pain, that's the time to write. Well, then what's your conclusion? I haven't taught on conclusion. You can come to lesson number 5. Minister in the middle of it. Absolutely, Denise. I absolutely don't mind at all, Bridget. You can ask away. For the self-help book, should I also include personal experience or just keep to the topic? You should absolutely include personal experience. If it's a self-help, they need to know that this is someone that they can trust, that you can take them along with the journey, but use illustrations and stories that, number one, you've overcome. In other words, if you're going to use a story for self-help specifically, you're not going to say, and I'm still struggling with this, so I hope you make it through. That doesn't feel very self-helpy. You don't feel like you helped yourself, so you're not going to give them any help. So if you're going to use a story, make sure it's something you have overcome. And then by all means, self-help books almost always contain stories. But don't make it such a story book that they don't get to meditate on their own story, okay? So you make a story for connection, but also to make your point. It should be relevant to your point. Don't just tell a story for the sake of telling a story. Very good. Have we got any more questions before we go into breakout with our apprentices? If there's anybody who wants to join us, our apprentice, I do believe we have some seats available. We have 2 more sessions, but we are going to go into the one-on-ones now with Denise. And then, guys, we're going to have some fun in our 3rd session. We're going to take some writing and we're going to craft it together. We're going to do it as a group so that you can see exactly what that looks like and how to do it, because I've given you some teaching here, but it helps to have somebody sitting with you hands-on and actually going through some of your text and to challenge you on some of your perspective. Yeah, speak to Chaifa. If you guys want a ticket, go ahead. You can speak to Chaifa. She can work with you guys if you want to be in the next session. We don't have any questions. We're going to be closing you off live. For those of you who are on Facebook, who are on YouTube, thank you for joining us. I had so much fun. I'm going to go back after the session and I'll go and read all of your comments and everything else, okay? Okay, apparently I can't end just yet because Chaifa wanted to say something. They're all giving me this dramatic, like, why are their hands flying in front of my camera? Okay, so Chaifa wants to be spotlighted for all of our apprentices. All of you know Chaifa very well. In fact, for all of you guys that are here today, she's been speaking to you back and forth. She's been the girl behind the scenes. Well, now you get to see the face for the emails. She has been reading all of your homework and been engaging with you guys. Let us give Chaifa a little moment to share what she's wanting to share. Go for it, Chaifa.
Okay, I definitely had to jump on. You see how we had to work as a team to hijack this moment, because this moment is all about honoring This part of the program is all about honoring the speaker and honoring the prophet and honoring our coach. And I know I literally had to like wrestle Apostle to give me this moment. She's like, no, it's okay. It's all right. We can ask for an offering. Maybe when we wrap up this session, but no, I know how important this is. She has blessed you guys. She has worked freely for a lot of you guys. She has given freely. She's worked. She's studied. She studied for hours. She has served each and every one of you guys. And now I want to take this moment to bless her, because I know that this part of impartation is important. It is vital. And that is the honor system. Now, I've been Apostle Colette's spiritual daughter for about 13 years now. That's 13 years of impartations, laying on of hands. And I tell you, some of those impartations, they just rolled off me, looked like they just bounced off me. And some of them took. And I'll tell you what, the ones that took were the ones that I showed honor, that I obeyed the instructions, that I followed through, and I served. There is something about honoring that gives you access, and God rewards you for it. And I know this group right here, I know this doesn't happen often, but every single name that I see on this screen, I have seen you on a Facebook comment. I've seen your email come in. I've seen you somewhere. You have written in. You have obeyed the instructions. You have served, and you have given, and you have shown discipline. And I want you to get your reward as well. I want you to not just trip up at the finish line, but get your reward, because I know how this works. I know how this impartation works. You honor and you will receive. And so I want my team now, I want each and every one of you guys to please just post the love gift link there. Let's show some appreciation to our apostle. Let's show some love to what she's done. Look, I was just reading the word the other day, and it's in the word. It's clearly there. You know that Sarah, after she entertained the angels, the men that came to her house, and Abraham said to her, go find your finest flour, your best flour, and knead that dough and serve these men. And she did. She brought her finest dough. She brought her finest flour and served. And after she honored the man of God, at the end of her servanthood, the angel said to her, by this time next year, you'll have a son. I want each one of you guys to now go find your finest flour, your best flour. It said that Abraham said your best. That means that there was some that weren't the best flour. There was some flour there that mice may or may not have gotten to it. There's flour there that may be okay, but there was a best flour, and she got her reward. So as my team post up those links, I'm just going to take a moment, every one of you guys, when you have given, if you've sowed your seed and blessed the apostle and showed her some honor, I want to just give me a thumbs up. Show me that you put it through, that you sowed your seed. And after I just get a few thumbs up, I'm going to go ahead. Now, I know Apostle Colette, she's going to reach out and give you personal thank you for your love gift or your seed. But before she does that, as each one of you guys have given, I just want to take this time just to pray over you and just speak blessing on you, that this seed, that everything, this impartation that you have received from Colette, that it sticks, that it goes with you. Because I know when you sow that seed, there's something when an impartation sticks, y'all. There's a grace in it that you don't have to work so hard. I want you guys to, that when you get off this program, that you sit down and you get such downloads from your book, you get blueprints from what God wants to do, that it just comes, that what you didn't know before, now you know, that you're flowing in a new anointing. She has that grace. She has over 40 books of that kind of grace, and I know you can flow in it too. So I want to release that on you and speak blessing on it. Very good. I see two people who've done it already. Just a couple more thumbs up, so I know that you guys have had enough time to go and do that. I don't want to leave anybody out. So let's bless her. Let's honor her. And guys, it was her birthday. There's Christmas. I know she would freely just keep on serving, but I know that there's Christmas coming up, and she could share you some blessing and just some appreciation. All right, let me see here. I see another thumbs up. Very good. All right, Father, I just thank you for these seeds that have been sown. I thank you for the diligence, and I speak that blessing and that reward on them, that what they have sown, it will reap a hundredfold return. It will come back in that blessing. They will be blessed in their writing. They will be blessed in putting their story onto paper, and that they can speak forth your message with power, that it could be received, that it ministers to the body of Christ. So I thank you for that, and I seal it in the spirit. All right. Thank you so much, guys. Now I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys to go into your breakout rooms, those that are apprentices. And if you still want to upgrade, there's still time. You can message me, but we'll see you guys next time.